Afternoon, Intuitives. I apologize, it's been a few days longer than I intended before I came back after my 33 videos in July run, which thank you for all of you that did donate to that worthy cause to help raise money for brain injury recovery via Same You. Those links in that video, by the way, it's still possible to donate a one-off donation for the next few months. At least that's what the email they told me said. So if you're like, oh shit, I wish I would have donated, go watch one of those videos, click the link, and you still can. So, topic for this video is INFJs and ENFJs need to know when to walk away. And that's something, particularly in our younger days, that we're not so good at. INFJs are always second guessing ourselves in situations like that. Like, is this all in my head? Is this really happening? Can other people see this, or is it me? And ENFJs are more like, oh, well, I can fix this person. I can make this situation better. It's not beyond repair. But sometimes, while that is true, sometimes it is beyond repair, and it's just a situation that you have to get away from. And this can apply in many different situations. I'm not just talking about in relationships, although that is one area where this certainly can be applicable, but also in work situations, friendships, living arrangements with roommates. This video came to mind to me the other day because I reached this situation at my current job. So as I said, I was working as a waiter bartender at a country club, kind of biding my time, just having money come in while I try to take care of things with my civil suit against the Arlington County Fire Department and try to plot out what my next move will be after that's settled, where I want to live, because I certainly don't want to live in Chester County, Pennsylvania. People who know me have known that I've made that abundantly clear for the past 20 years. And I've mentioned in other videos I'm leaning towards either Dublin or London, more so London because I tried to move there in 2007 to go to Oxford. It didn't work out, but I've always felt drawn to that city for the past 20 years. I don't know why. I know part of it's because I'm such a history nerd, and it's, reflux. And that city's very progressive and multicultural environment appeals to me. And also because because there's a chance I could be a firefighter there, where that is seemingly looking more and more impossible in the United States and Canada. Also, there's a lot of places in Europe I want to go, and if I was based out of London, that would make those trips much more accessible and easier as opposed to being based in North America. Similar would work for Dublin, but I know a handful of people in London. I know nobody in Dublin. But we'll see. I'm going to visit both, and I'm going to visit Australia too. Possibly look into relocating there, and maybe go down to Tasmania to look for a thylacine. Yeah, but a little side note. So back to my situation at work. So I told you, waiter, bartender, country club. I'd been working 6 days a week, oftentimes double shifts. Some of my videos, I can't even hide how tired I was. And, I was one of the people they relied on. I could pull a lot of tables. I was never late. I came in early. I pretty much did whatever they asked, but I seemed to always be getting the short end of the stick by the club manager, when it comes to getting good tables or getting the hourly rate I deserved. I mentioned in other videos that, the club relied on me twice in the same week, actually, to utilize my EMT skills on the property, and they rely on that license. A lot of those people are supposed to be first aid, AED certified, and they're not, but, they have a full-fledged EMT on the property most of the time. That covers it. But the same token, the double standards and the drama were getting to me. So there was, and I wasn't the only employee getting shafted like this. There was others, particularly a college-age ENFJ who recently left to go back to university, and they exploited her inability to say no. Yes, I know, early 20s, the ENFJ can't say no. It's shocking, and never saw that coming. So the situation continued to deteriorate with myself and others, our work ethic and things like that being taken advantage of, and us often getting the short end of the stick, while management would look the other way on numerous infractions by other employees. And I'm talking things like no call, no shows, back to back days, calling out like a third of their shifts, coming in late pretty much every day, things of that nature. And they totally turned a blind eye to that. Now, I mean, I'm not saying, hey, we should fire these people, but I'm saying, hey, those people should be the ones who get the shitty sections and have to work the banquets, which you make no tips on, and you only make your hourly rate, which is $10 an hour below the industry average. And I was put on banquet duty, all the banquets, for a month straight, and that's when I first approached the club manager. I'm like, you told me everybody had to do their fair share. How am I on every one? And there's multiple people who haven't worked a single one. Oh, well, blah, blah, blah. And I continued, to speak up on things like this and remind other employees that they can speak up and say no, particularly this young ENFJ, because she was being taken advantage of the most. They were exploiting her inability to say no to authority, but hopefully I helped her at least somewhat do better at that, because the ability to say no by a young, pretty ENFJ is definitely something you want to have when you are in a large university. So there were some other people being taken advantage of, and they would tell their stories, and people were upset. And I, as I mentioned, I think in a previous video, became the representative for everybody. Well, when I did that, instead of the situation improving, it got worse for me, like as if, it was a form of retaliation for me having the gall to speak up and say, hey, this is broken. You got to change something. I don't know exactly how you're going to change it, but this can't, this isn't going to work. Like, the people you rely on are tired of being screwed over while you coddle the ones who do the screwing over. So, my last day, it was a busy double, and it was happy hour, which is always busy. I was in the bar section because I can pull a lot of tables, and the college-age ENFJ, she wanted to be the other person in the bar section. I'm like, come on, like, because happy hour, you make a lot of money there. So I'm like, hey, come on, let her in here. Like, she can handle it. She's here. And they're like, no, that's reserved for the least reliable employee, the one who they show the most favoritism to. And I'm like, well, she's not here. Like, we have to prep the area. She's not due until 5. That's when happy hour begins. Like, well, we'll tell. They basically told the ENFJ girl, you're on standby to work that section if, the princess doesn't show up. So it's like, wait a minute. So you're already assuming this person's either going to be late or not show up, but you're still reserving the best section for them? That's not right. All right, so they didn't like that. And then we, if you've ever worked in a restaurant industry, you have your side work. So this princess came in late on happy hour. I'm in the bar section by myself, trying to pull a full bar and a full deck, getting my ass kicked because I must have had 10 tables at once. Not easy to do, especially when everybody's on their own check. But so this, this like all-star princess comes in late and doesn't even go out on the floor, continues, to just eating in the kitchen. And I mention it to the bar manager, and the bar manager, he's pissed. He goes, tries to find her. The club manager's back there expoing. Doesn't say a word about that. Meanwhile, like, her side work was to fill all the condiments in the little cup, so that wasn't done. So now everybody on the floor is screwed because of that. But again, not a word about it. So this person is now late for the 150th time, didn't do their side work, and isn't where they're supposed to be during a busy happy hour in which they reserved the best section for her. So, meanwhile, the rest of us are playing catch up. I'm running around like a madman. I'm trying to fill the condiment stations, which somehow became my job for the end of the day. Somehow, like, my prep work for dinner was to get the bar and the deck ready, like do utensil roll-ups and water stations and all that, and that was all done and then some. So somehow she gets that job for the closing, knowing that I already did half the work for the closing, and I was there since 10 in the morning, and I'm gonna get out at like 9:30, and I have to be back at 9:30 in the morning. She came in at 5, and I'll probably get out at 9:30. So they reserve, and doesn't come in until 4 the next day. They reserved, the easiest side work for her closing because I already did half of it, and they assigned me, you know, the side work of prepping the condiments, which is far back behind because she didn't do it prior to the shift. We were busier than we thought. I had to do, extra roll-ups. So I'm running around in between when I'm firing orders, doing roll-ups in the back banquet room, and the head server. She comes back and she's like, "Oh, the club manager's pissed at you. She thinks you're back here vaping," which we all vape, nicotine vapes, and everybody does it. But for some reason, we all do it away from customers. But for some reason, the club manager only takes issue when I do it. So I'm in the back doing extra work trying to get caught up because they screwed me. And I'm back here doing effing roll-ups. And there's been a roll, there's obviously proof that that's what I was doing. And then she's like, "Well, she said blah, blah, blah." I'm like, how about she, go gets on the people that came in late and screwed everybody, or the people that instead of helping get us caught up are sitting in the kitchen on their phone. Well, that's different. She expects more from you. I'm like, yeah, she expects more from me for less money. I'm like, I don't need this double standards and shit. So I took off my apron and I left, and I'm not going back because, and I go through that whole story to illustrate my point that, in a deteriorating situation, don't just walk away. Express what your concerns are, and especially express evidence to back it up and to say, hey, like multiple people are saying the same thing. Something needs to be done. And if they refuse to do anything to improve the situation, or in my case, if they make it harder on you for speaking up, then it's time to walk away. Now, if you're in your dream job or something, I understand, keep fighting, go above the manager's head to try to fix the situation. But if you're in a situation like I was in, where it was, just a temporary job for a paycheck, walk away and find another one. Understand that, as I now know, I was, the club manager was, always intended for me to be this grunt who just does what he's told, while she reserved the best opportunities to make money for people who were constantly unreliable, but that she just had blatant favoritism for. And, I tried to stay out of the drama and stuff at work. I was there to make money. If I was expected to pull the most tables and work the most hours, work the most days, I just expected to be in a position where I could make the most money since they relied on me the most. However, that was not the case. I already have another job offer lined up, which I'm going to explore on Tuesday. But yeah, in a situation like that, know when you got to walk away. Relationships can be very similar. If you have a partner who's taking advantage of you, um, uh, an example comes to mind. I was talking to an old friend of mine. She and I aren't close anymore, but we were at one time. She's an ENFJ. We were always just friends. I've known her since childhood. But, anyway, so when we were, I think I've in passing mentioned this before. When we were in our mid-20s, shortly after university, she was dating an older guy, probably an ENTP. He was, upper middle class, silver spoon, drove a Porsche, all that, and he completely took her for granted. He was great at manipulating her, great at getting her to believe what he wanted to believe, and she fell for him. She fell for him hard, and thought that they had something real. Meanwhile, he never viewed her as anything more than something casual and short term. And she suspected this, and she would talk to me about it and ask me what I thought, and I'm like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you what you want to hear. If you're asking me, you're essentially asking me to confirm what you already know. And eventually she was able to walk away from him. He kept trying to manipulate her into her thinking how lucky she was to have him. He would often coerce her into intimate things that she was uncomfortable with, and at times brag about it to other people, which at one point I, was this close to becoming violent if I wasn't restrained. But she eventually knew that, she had to walk away from that situation, that there was no possible way to repair it, that it would never be what she wanted it to be. And that's something INFJs and ENFJs need to keep in mind, whether it's in your personal life, romantic life, or work life. There's going to be times where some situations, for whatever reason, are so beyond repair that all you can do is walk away. And if you have that feeling in your head, like I said, if you haven't spoken out and tried anything to fix the situation, do that first. But if after doing that, if after trying to fix the situation, if nothing gets better, or in fact if it gets worse, then it's time to walk away, because if you stay, you will just continually be used and exploited and not be treated right or given a fair shot. And that's something we all encounter at some point in life, but we always have this feeling like we have to stick it out, or that we can fix it, or, if I do this, this, and this, and just show people this, then everything will be better. That's not always the case. That works sometimes, but it's not always the case. Do not continue to let yourself be used. Know when it's time to walk away. And also, never sell out your integrity. Always trust your intuition, even if your intuition's telling you to walk away. And I'll see you in the next video.